Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Maria Gonçalves podcast. And today I have a special guest all the way from British Columbia, Canada, and her name is Courtney Dawson. So, welcome, Courtney.
Thanks for having me, Maria. So nice to connect with you.
Thank you so much. And for our listeners, Courtney is an evidential medium, a psychic, and a mentor.
I am.
She is. And Courtney, would you like to tell our listeners anything else about yourself?
I'm also an ordained spiritualist minister, and I got ordained almost 2 years ago. So had a big part of my life being, especially my mediumship development, has been influenced from the religion of spiritualism. And it's just an incredible honor to be able to do those Sunday services and help support people in other ways too, outside of just demonstrating mediumship.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
I was wondering, because I know this is a question I ask all of my guest mediums, is how did you know you were a medium?
It's a really good question. I actually didn't know I was a medium until I was 30, but I did have an awareness of spirit and definitely had them showing up in my life from the ages of like 2 and 3. I would see people, they would talk to me. I had all kinds of interactions with them, but I didn't actually know it was called mediumship. No awareness because I grew up in a Christian home, right? So my parents always taught us there was angels and then there was the negative stuff. They didn't talk about we would be able to connect with our departed loved ones. And there was a lot of dogma and religious influence that really hindered me from being able to get clarity and understanding about my spiritual experiences. And then after I got divorced when I was 30, I just said, you know what? I need to get some answers about these experiences that I'm having and why I'm having these people communicate with me and why am I being woken up in the middle of the night? And then it was really this journey of self-discovery that led me to find a spiritualist church. And I explained to them what was going on, and they're like, you need to sit in a circle. You need to start understanding your abilities and learning how to manage them because they were just so unmanaged, unhinged. They were very much overwhelming. And so it was by getting a mentor, by going to the spiritualist church, sitting in a circle, I understood at that point what was going on. And it was like all the pieces of the puzzle came together, and I realized yeah, I'm a medium. There's a reason why I'm having these experiences. I'm not crazy. And it was so, so comforting to know there was something behind what I was going through. And it really just opened the door to possibilities and just really gave me so much healing because I suffered from like low self-esteem and because of these experiences, I didn't know anybody else that was seeing so-called dead people. And like I always say to my students in the Connected Spirit School, they are not dead. They are just people with no bodies, right? They're very much alive. And so that really, at 30, just opened the doors to a new way of living. And it is or enriched really every area of my life, Maria.
Oh, that's awesome. So I love
Mhm.
that you said 30 because that's when I got my abilities was 30 through a back injury, but mediumship was not on my top 10 things to do before I die. It was not on my bucket list. I didn't know
Me
what it
neither.
was. And I grew up in a Catholic family, very strict. And yeah, it was interesting. So when spirits started showing up, I was completely terrified. So I am curious, how does spirit show up for you?
For me, they show up in many different ways. Now that I'm disciplined in my mediumship, I've set boundaries with the spirit world. They know when I'm working. So if I'm teaching a class or going to be doing a private reading, I have different helpers from the other side that are going to work with me. And I very much work through the faculty of clairsentience. I do work with the other clairs, but predominantly it's the clairsentience and also the clairaudience. And so when I have a spirit helper, known as like a spirit guide, but I call them a helper because they help me out in so much in my life. I get this familiarity of their essence. And it's just like if somebody is coming into a room and you haven't seen them, but you can feel their presence as it comes in, and you know who it is. Well, that's the same way it works for me in my mediumship. So I know who's there, and I'm just so grateful when they come forward. And it's very much that feeling of familiarity because I sit with them on a regular basis.
Oh, I love that. So when you say I sit with them on a regular basis,
Mm.
what does that mean for our listeners that are not familiar with that saying?
Yeah, so when we are developing our mediumship, we can take a class and learn the mechanics. In other words, you can learn the ABCs of how to connect with spirit, make a link, and how to give a message. But another side of our development, which is just as important, if not more, in my belief and my philosophy as a medium and a teacher, is that we need to sit. And sitting means that we are going to be sitting in the power of our own energy, the power of our own spirit. And through that, we can have an awareness of who we are as spiritual beings. We can have an awareness through sitting in the power of our own limitations through mindsets. We can also have this revelation of our potentials within us that we don't normally recognize in our day to day life because we're so busy. But also, sitting with spirit is an opportunity for our spirit helpers to develop us, to develop our energy. It's not a time for us to get messages from the other side. It's very much, I feel that's where meditation comes in. But sitting in the power is for your own development. There's two pieces. You connecting with your own soul, getting to know who you are. That is so vital when we're developing mediumship because so many students will say, well, I don't know it's me or spirit. If you don't know who you are, it's going to make it really difficult for you to understand who's connecting with you from the other side. The second part of sitting with spirit or sitting in the power is allowing them to work with you to develop your energy because everything we do as psychic mediums is all energy. So
Yes.
spirit may come in and, tweak a little bit of our energy within the auric field. They may enhance our abilities in a certain faculty because they see the potential of our mediumship going in a certain direction. They're like, okay, I'm going to try this out with Courtney. Let's see here. And it's kind of like they're making little adjustments, right? They can do that.
Yes.
And I really feel sometimes, I might not actually be so-called going on a journey, down the path and over the creek. I don't get that in my experiences with spirit. It's more about allowing myself to be really present, disciplining the mind, connecting with my soul, allowing spirit to work with me. Sometimes they'll give me information, but it's more about allowing them to do what's ever needed for my development because they know best, right?
Yes.
And one of the things that we encounter, especially in our early development, is we want to control the experience. We want to know what's going to happen, and we feel like we've got to be really active in it. But I find that mediumship development works best where we're more relaxed and just really kind of passive. Because if our mind is too active, meaning we're so involved in what's actually taking place, it makes it difficult for us to recognize when spirit's there and what they're actually trying to say. And people will say
Yes.
to me, well, how come now that I'm developing mediumship, it's so much harder for me to recognize spirit when I wasn't trying to do anything? I could recognize them no problem. I was getting all these messages and downloads.
Mhm.
I said, you just answered your own question when you weren't trying to do anything. Because when you're relaxed and not trying to be super involved in it, that's when the magic happens. That's when you're able to really recognize when they're there and recognize the subtlety of spirit. I always tell my students, Maria, people think spirit's going to come in, big gusts of wind, curtains
Yes.
blowing, doors slamming. They're not. They're really, really subtle when they come and connect with us because this might be the first time that we've allowed them to come this close. They don't want to disrupt us. They don't want to freak us out. Spirit is always loving in their intention when they want to work with us. And so if they're going to come in very subtle and quiet and gentle, then it makes sense that we need to be at that same kind of state or
Yes.
vibration, right?
Absolutely. So I am curious because I always get asked this question, and I hear other mediums. I find sitting in the power becomes a hot topic.
Yes.
Do you sit in the power? I'll hear mediums say, "No, I don't need to anymore." then how long to sit in the power? Like for me personally, it's every day. And I do it twice a day. I'll do it in the morning, half an hour and half an hour at night. And that works for me. I've tried an hour and I can't do it. So for you, how long would you recommend people sit in the power?
I think it's something that you have to build up to.
Hmm.
Because one of the big things about sitting in the power is we're also learning how to discipline the mind. That monkey mind of ours is going a mile a minute. And anytime we try to get relaxed, the mind's going to pop in and go, oh, you forgot to empty the dishwasher, or you forgot to turn the dishwasher on. Oh, you need to put the clothes now in the dryer. Or remember that phone call you got to make at 3 o'clock today. Your mind is going to go wild and go, you got to do this, you got to do that. In the practice, you're going, no, I need to do this right now. That can wait, right?
Yes.
So that's going to happen. And then when we are moving into the power, what we're doing is the big part is the discipline. And it's
Mhm.
going to take time. Sometimes if I'm overactive in the morning, the first 10 minutes is me just quieting the mind.
Oh,
So,
yes.
and that's normal. It's not about going off into some kind of journey of bliss. If you can get there, sweet. But it's about being consistent and showing up. That's the first thing. Whether you think anything is happening or not, it doesn't matter. So if you can sit for even 5 minutes a day for the first week, perfect. If you
Yes.
feel like nothing's happened, perfect, because you've been consistent. Then the next week, you're going to sit for 10 minutes. Do it
Mhm.
gradual. I really feel like it's easy for people to have experiences when they're giving themselves the opportunity to do it in like bite-sized pieces. The more you get comfortable with it, the longer you can sit. Now, for me, I have some issues with my hip. The longest I usually sit is maybe 40 minutes. And
Yeah.
then my hip's really, really sore and it jams. So I'll do that. And then I'll do some mindfulness or some meditation at night for maybe 15 minutes. Now, start off 5 minutes a day. If you can do it 5 days a week, brilliant. If you can do it 3 times a week for 10 minutes, amazing. The
Yeah.
point is that you're setting an appointment with spirit, you're showing up and you're being consistent to the practice. And the more you do it, the more things are going to unfold in your development. And if people are struggling and recognizing if it's spirit or them, sit in the power. If your messages are not coming through clearly, sit in the power. If your recipients are not understanding the information, sit in the power. If you're really tired after you've given a mediumship reading, whether it's a 5 minute sitting or a 60-minute sitting, sit in the power. Because what you're doing is, think of it this way, most of us have mobile phones or cell phones. Well,
Yes.
that cell phone has a battery, and that battery is going to last for usually, let's say, 6 to 8 hours. Well, as a medium, we have our own personal energy and our spiritual energy. That
Mhm.
needs to be replenished. So think of sitting in the power is like plugging yourself in to get recharged, just like you would a cell phone.
Oh, I love that explanation. That's very
It's
easy.
simple, very easy.
Yes.
You're doing it to recharge your batteries. And in the process, the bonus, you're going to discipline your mind. You're going to be able to recognize spirit. You're going to be able to connect with your own soul. You're allowing the spirit world to develop your energy. Whether you're aware of or not, they're still doing work. I promise you, they are. And the benefits of disciplining the mind. There's health benefits to it. Less
Mhm.
anxiety, less physical tension. There's all kinds of beautiful things that happen while you're sitting in the power. So
Yes.
even if it's for 5 minutes, perfect, but definitely you want to work up to 40 to 60 minutes if you can. An hour is amazing, right? And if you can do it every day, cool. If you can only do it 3 to 4 times a week, cool. Make the time to sit. That's the whole point. And then show up to it, because our spirit helpers, our spirit guides, our team on the other side, they're always going to be there. And so I feel like when I show up, I'm also honoring their time,
Oh, I like that.
you
Yes.
know, because it's their generosity, their love to
Mhm.
bring through that communication through my mediumship that allows my mediumship to even take place. We can get so much in our head, Maria, where we think, well, it's all about us, all about us. Hold the train. No, it's not.
Yep.
It's definitely not. It's a partnership with the other world. If we are not cultivating that relationship with our spirit helpers. Our mediumship will never find its fullest expression because one of the most important things of your mediumship is that connection to the other world, because they're your eyes and ears to the other side. Things go wonky, check in with your guides.
I love how you said that there are eyes and ears to the other side, because it's a team. Like, we're a team with them. I am wondering, because I am curious, over the years, has your mediumship changed, or is it still the same?
Totally changed. Totally changed. In the early stages, I was seeing clairvoyantly. So I
Mhm.
would have incredible objective clairvoyance. And for people that are wanting to know, clairvoyance is clear seeing. So it's the ability to see beyond the physical senses. So there's actually two different types of clairvoyance. There is objective and subjective. The most common one is subjective, which means you're seeing pictures or images or symbols in your mind's eye or your imagination, if you want to
Mhm.
call it that. The second clairvoyance is objective, which means outside of yourself. It's all still through the psychic senses, but it's outside. So, for example, you and I are sitting on Zoom right now recording the podcast. How I see you is how I would see spirit objectively. It wouldn't be in my mind's eye. My eyes would be open. I'd be looking, and that's how I'd see them. They weren't like the kind of spirits where people show on movies. They're kind of foggy or white or hazy. No, they were solid. And that's why when I was young, I didn't understand that these were actually deceased people because they look just as real as you and me.
Oh, wow. I
Yeah.
had that after a back injury, though, in my 30s. And I learned very quickly, because I actually thought they were, I don't know if the word is real people. I thought they were having a human experience. So I'd go to parties and I'd be like, well, who's that person over there? Why isn't that guy talking to anybody? And then everybody would look at me and be like, what guy? So I learned really
Wow.
quickly in the beginning of my development, when I went places and I saw an extra person, if nobody was talking to that person, that was spirit. But
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't realize, and I love that we're having this conversation, because when I had it and I would share with other mediums, no other medium had that experience. So they just looked at me like, what's wrong with you? I see a picture, I see a little movie clip, and I'm like, no, I see like a lot, like a real solid person. How do you
Yeah.
not see a live solid person? So thank you for sharing that, because that just makes me feel better
And you
that
know
I'm
what?
not
That's
the
what
only one. Yes.
Yeah, and that's why it's important to have these conversations because it's really helping others feel seen and validated in their own experiences. There is no one size fits all for mediumship. So, like, I began to see spirit my whole life. It was clairvoyantly, but objectively. When I started to sit in circle, that's how they appeared. And then a couple of years into my development, it was gone. It was gone. And I went to go sit with spirit in circle and there was nothing. I actually thought my mediumship went away, Maria. I swear, I promise. I panicked. And so I kept sitting, kept meditating, nothing. So I called my mentor. Thank goodness. This is the value of having mentorship. When you're
Yes.
having struggles and challenges in your mediumship, they can tune in to not only your energy, but your spirit helpers and get it like a reading, a measure of what's going on with you. She's like, oh, honey, don't worry about that. They're just changing how they're working with you. She's like, just keep sitting. They're going to show you. Sure enough, they did. Took a few weeks, but they did. And from that point on, I've been working clairsentiently. The last couple of years, they've been working clairaudiently with me. So it just constantly changes. And that's why I feel like we shouldn't put limitations on how spirit can communicate with us. Some people, especially in my school where I'm teaching, they go, well, I don't see, so that means I'm not a medium. But you naturally feel because you're a sentient being. Let's
Mhm.
focus on that first. You naturally can get that feeling if something's right or wrong, feels good or not good. Let's start with that.
Yeah.
And if we can just be really open and expansive in our thinking when it comes to developing mediumship, it's really going to show you how intelligent and how incredible the other world is because they can see things far beyond our own perception. And
Yeah.
so, there's going to be changes, ebbs and flows in the mediumship. Don't be discouraged. Just go with it. for me, the clairvoyance was incredible, but then I had to figure out, how do I describe all this stuff? Why I love
Yes,
clairsentience is because the feeling, it just gives me so much more depth. I always say it's kind of like, yeah, I can see something, but the feeling is like the meat and potatoes. It brings it all together for me, right?
it
And
does.
it just gives it so much more depth. And I absolutely love it. Love it, love it, love it.
I love that. I think it's important also to let people know, don't compare yourself to the next medium because we're all different. And
Totally.
and don't compare your journey. Oh, she was only here a year, and then at 2 years, he or she did this, and at 4 years, they're already doing that. It's like, no, we're all so individual. And then there are mediums that do the one-on-one readings, others that do platform, because I'll hear some mediums say, well, I should be at platform already, or I'm not a platform person, and then they feel bad because they're like, oh, but isn't that like part of being a medium? You have to be platform. And just
No.
reminding them, like, you're working for spirit. You do you perfectly.
Absolutely. You know, I never envisioned myself doing this professionally. I never, in my wildest dreams, thought when I start sitting in a circle that I would be really giving messages. I honestly, I just didn't know. Everything that I've done up until this point, like at the time you and I are talking, has always been inspired by spirit. And I knew that when I wanted to begin developing, that I want to be really disciplined to make sure that I was always honoring the spirit, because there's a lot of people that can lose sight of what this work is all about. And it's about bringing through evidence of soul survival, that the soul lives beyond bodily death. And I truly, truly believe in all of my heart, mediumship is all about healing. It's about healing
Yes.
for comforting the bereaved, knowing that their loved ones are still there. They still know what's going on. They can still communicate through different ways, through the language of spirit. But how healing is it for those on the other side to be able to say, honey, I'm still here. I'm sorry I didn't get to say goodbye. This is what I really want you to know. That changes lives every single day through mediums that are working in ethical ways. And there's different ways that mediumship can present itself. Like you mentioned,
Mhm.
there's the private readings, one-to-ones. I
Yes.
didn't really think I was ever going to do that. I do it. I've been doing it for almost 10 years. And then platform. Oh my God, are you kidding me? Never thought about that. I only started doing platform when I went into the ministry training. You have to give a divine service, right? You got to do the service, you got to do the
Yeah.
address, and then a demonstration of mediumship. And something that I was required to do in ministry training was take a public speaking course. So while I was still working full time, I was taking a nighttime course at the university in downtown Vancouver. So it was lots of back and forth, but that really helped me too, because I was so nervous and petrified of talking in front of people. It helped me, believe it or not, because I realized it's not about what those people think. It's about honoring the spirit and bringing through their messages. And so, whether I'm giving a demonstration to 10 people, 100 people, 500 people, doesn't matter. It only matters that I'm working in integrity, that
Yeah.
spirit's there, that they show up. So far, they've always been there. Sweet.
Yes.
You know? Because if
They
they didn't show
trust.
up, there's nothing, right? It can't work. And it's just about delivering those messages. It's about just kind of shifting how we look at the work we do. And sometimes people are going to, a lot of people, more often than not, are going to develop mediumship just so they can connect with their loved ones on the other side, to understand their own abilities, to be able to maybe give some messages to family and friends. Not everybody wants to become a professional medium.
Mhm.
And let's be honest, not everybody's meant to do it on that level. And I'm not
True.
saying that from an egotistical way. I'm just saying not everybody's meant to do that. And so, like, let's not put pressure on ourselves to be like certain people. Really hone in on where you are in your life and where spirit wants to take you. And then cultivate that trust in your own abilities and with spirit through sitting, through journaling.
I love that. Do you
Sure.
find when you are sitting in the power, like I have this where, because we do it regularly, so you do it regular, I find 5 minutes before I'm just waking up, getting my cup of coffee, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna go sit in the power. I can already feel spirit, like, okay, it's our appointment time to hang out
Yeah.
together. That is like the coolest feeling. So I don't know, do you get that too?
I get it when when I actually sit down in my chair. So I have a
Nice.
chair that I sit in my office. As soon as I ground, I always send out that offering to the spirit. Hey guys, I'm here. So excited. to connect with you and just really leave this time to you. Do what's ever needed. Because I trust them. I do. They know best. And I do.
Sure.
And then I always get the same feeling of when my helpers come in. It's like this energy of love that just envelops me. And in the early stages when I started sitting, I'd always cry. And it wasn't like tears of sadness. It was like pure unconditional love. And that's how I always
Mhm.
tell people, when the spirit has touched you, because often you're moved to tears because
Yes.
it's so all-encompassing. Honestly, I truly think the English language is really limiting in so many ways. We often find when they touch us, there's no words that we can find, and we just cry. And I've
Yeah.
done that many times. And now when I feel that same feeling, I just am so full of gratitude.
That's so beautiful. I tell people because I'll have people ask, I want to get a medium reading. Is this medium good? Is that medium good? And I will always say to them, just like trust your heart.
Yeah,
Go where you feel drawn to. And then after the reading, because they will ask, well, how do I know I got a good reading? And you said the words too, and I love it. Did it touch your heart?
yeah,
Because if it touched your heart and you were moved by the reading, then you know they were there. And I think
absolutely.
that's so beautiful. So today, and I feel like we've already started talking, we were going to talk more about demystifying mediumship because there are a lot of myths out there about mediumship. So I will
Absolutely.
hand that over to you.
So there's so many myths about it. So I'm going to talk about the top three things. Number one, that when we are connecting with the other side, that we need to be very, very careful because we're actually summoning demons. And I mean, this is language I actually grew up with in the Christian home. I'm not
Me
being
too.
I'm not being
Me too.
sensational. This is language that I actually was raised in. And I
Mhm.
just today shared a story on my IG stories of someone else, another medium who shared something very similar. And so when we are connecting with the other side, we are not connecting to malevolent beings. We're connecting to souls that we have known and loved and that continue to love and share time with us from the other world. People think that our loved ones, when they so-called are dead, that their bodies are, especially if you come from a religious background, that the body and soul is in the grave, that we cannot disturb them, and that will be reunited when we cross over. So, number one, our loved ones, are they at peace? Absolutely. Are they resting? No, they're busy checking out what y'all are doing. They are learning and growing on the other side, trying new hobbies. Some of the stuff that Spirit shares in the readings is absolutely incredible. I go, wow, you're doing that? They're like, yeah, I never got the opportunity to do this. There was a lady in her reading who came through to talk to her daughter. She always wanted to be an artist, but she was really really scared of it for some reason. She just had some blocks and stuff she needed to work through. Guess what she's doing on the other side? She's doing that. She's painting. She's doing all kinds of fun stuff. People go, really? Yeah, because the spirit world is like our world, but it doesn't have limitations such as, fears and doubts and insecurities. And we don't have to worry about health issues. We don't have to worry about finances. It's just
Mhm.
a place of possibility. So you are connecting with your loved ones. You do not have to worry about summoning demons or evil, malevolent entities. That's just completely false and rubbish. Okay.
Okay.
So we are not doing that. Absolutely not. Number two, can everybody develop mediumship? Or let me rephrase that. Do you have to be born a medium in order to develop mediumship? Okay. So this is a little bit of a conversation that I really feel needs to be had. So I truly believe that every single person in this earth has the ability to connect with spirit, to be able to develop mediumship. Here's why. Because we are spiritual beings having a human experience, not the other way around.
Mhm.
So to me, it makes total sense that within us, we already have this natural ability to connect with spirit. Meaning, if we're spirit within our own soul, we have this natural ability to connect to the other side through the clairs, seeing, hearing, knowing, feeling, even smelling and tasting. Okay. It is our human mind that needs that remembrance of that natural language of spirit, that ability to connect. And that's where training, formal training comes in. That's where sitting in the circle
Yes.
comes in. Okay. Your soul already knows how to do that. It just,
Mm.
your mind's got to know how to do that. So, in my opinion, do you have to be born a medium to be a medium? I think we're all mediums in our own right. And this is something I always share in the Connected Spirit School and even on my own podcast, Maria. I just think totally, and I don't just think, I know that every single person has the ability to connect with spirit, and I shared why. And I equate it to somebody wanting to learn how to play a musical instrument. So, for example, I want to learn how to go to play the piano. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to get a musical instrument, I'm going to go take a class and have a teacher support me. I might be able to play a couple tunes. I may
Mhm.
not become and take it to the degree of being a professional musician or artist or concert pianist, but it doesn't mean that I can't do something incredible with the skill set that I have. Same with
Yes.
mediumship. Everybody can sit, everybody can learn to develop mediumship. Not everybody is going to take it to the degree of working with the public. You don't have to.
I
Does
think
that make
too.
sense?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I totally believe we all have mediumistic abilities, simply because when anybody's loved one passes away, you'll always hear people say, I know I can sense them with me. I'm
Yeah.
seeing the signs, so that they have that connectedness. Then it's like, do you want to develop it or don't you? It doesn't really matter. But every single person that I feel that I'm aware of that has lost a loved one will always say, I know they're with me. I can sense them in the room. I know they were
Yeah.
there today when I was having a hard time. Their scent, the signs from spirit, the scent of their perfume. I was really struggling this morning. All of a sudden, I smelled their perfume or their cigarette butt. So they're having mediumistic experiences already, but they're not trained professional mediums and they don't need to be, and they don't need to go down that path if they don't want to. So I do believe we're all born mediums to a degree, and then we decide
Yeah.
whether we want to go further or not. Yeah, I like
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. We all have that ability because we're spirit first. And so spirit is our natural language. It's just the mind that needs the remembering. So whether somebody wants to learn how to develop their own natural mediumship abilities to connect with their loved ones, to help bring through healing messages to family members and friends, or they have this knowing within that
Mhm.
there is a potential within them to help other people's heal, like at a professional level, it doesn't mean that one form of mediumship is better than the other, because again, like I said previously in the show, it's all about healing. So
Yes.
sometimes I think that people think it's got to be like how it is on television, and it's really not. Spirit communication is so natural. And this is one of the things that I love to share when I'm talking about demystifying mediumship is people think that is something woo-woo and it's like so esoteric, and mediums are people that have crystal balls. Now, I do have a crystal ball. It's a
Me
little tiny
too.
one.
A
I
tiny
love it.
one.
I do. I love it. I tried doing scrying with it. I saw my grandpa on it when he was a young man. It was incredible. But I was getting headaches when I was trying to use the scrying, so I stopped. I just let them
Oh,
talk to me. It's easier. But the depictions in Hollywood particular, even a lot of the stuff that's on social media, let's face it, a lot of it's garbage. Um, it is not about predictions. It is not about anything woo-woo. Spirit communication is so natural.
yeah.
And it's just as natural as you and I breathing. And there is nothing abnormal about it. It's actually super normal. It's incredible. It is life changing. It's life enriching. And I just really want people to know, like, as mediums, number one, we don't read minds. People go, I get it often when I do private readings. I don't know about you, but do mediums read minds? Can you read my mind? Do you know what I'm thinking? No, 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 I
Oh,
don't. I don't need to know. Thank you. And
yeah.
and there's still some overlap a lot where people think that psychics are mediums or they're going to be bringing through psychic information. So if I'm doing a psychic reading, it's only psychic, which means I'm going to be getting the information from the auric field of my client, from the physical world. Now, if I'm working mediumistically, I'm getting the information only from the spirit communicator. So for
Yes.
people that are listening that don't know the difference between psychic and mediumship, there you go. And that's why in my work, I always identify as a medium, not even so much as psychic medium, because people go, what? A medium is going to be psychic as well.
True.
They're very psychic. Now, it just depends on where they're going to be bringing that information through in a client reading, right?
Yes.
Evidentially, mediumistically, we're bringing it from the spirit communicator. Psychically, we're getting it from the client. We're getting it from the physical world. That's where the information comes from. And then, yeah, we don't read minds. We're not going to do predictions. Even in my psychic readings, I still don't do that stuff. I just totally think it's unethical. I really
Yeah.
do. Because nobody has more free power, like free will over your life than you do. Nobody has more power over your life than you do. And I just think it's kind of cringy that people would want a complete stranger to give them all of this information and basically tell them what to do with their life, and then not take responsibility for their own actions. That's a whole other podcast episode. We can talk
That
about that another,
is, that is. I know
right?
for me, because I've heard when you talk to mediums and they're just coming out professionally, and there will be that, do I call myself a psychic? Do I call myself a medium? Am I an evidential? So there's all these titles, and then people get
Yeah,
confused with titles. I find when you put the word psychic, like I use psychic medium, but I like it feels right for me.
yeah,
Uh, it'll be like, tell me about my future. And it'll be like, you have free will. Do you know you have free will? And even like, because I do tarot readings, that they're intuitive, but I do let people know, and I do have it on my website. I don't make decisions for you. I can guide
yeah,
you. We can feel into the information and where we're going. And then I always ask my client, the person receiving the reading, well, now that I've said this, I want you to tune into you. How
yeah,
does that feel? Does it feel like a yes? Does it feel like a no? Because I always try to turn it back to them to give them power so they learn
yeah,
how to tune into their body with the decisions that they're making. So I find too within readings, there's an education component, especially with psychic, because they're
yeah,
just like, here, I'm going to give you all my power, and here's my bank account number, my passcodes. Like, no, 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 don't give me nothing. And I
yeah,
try to educate them to empower them, because I think that that's our jobs as medium, psychics, intuitives, whatever title we use. It's always leaving people better than we found them,
100%.
and giving them their power back. Because I find a lot of people, when it, especially for psychic, they'll be so broken and be like, I'm so lost, help me. And they're so ready to let you make all the decisions, and I find it's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to meet you where you're at, but I'm also going to help empower you by the end of the session, that you feel like, hey, I can make my own decisions. And then the next question is, how often can I see you? Can I see you every week? And it's like, no, because you want them to come to you, but then feel empowered enough that maybe they only come once a year or something, but no more, because you don't want to be that person that's making their decisions. You don't want to take their power away from them.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, girl, you and I are so on the same page with that. I love that. I get the same thing too, where they want me to make decisions. I'm like, honey, I can't. I won't. It's not in my moral compass to do that. I always tell people, I did a couple psychic readings yesterday in the studio, and they want guidance, they want suggestions and clarity. I'm going to give that to them. But I always let them know it's about empowering you so you can feel really confident and really empowered with the decisions that you're going to make for your life.
Yeah.
And the work that we do, whether it's on a mediumistic level or psychic, there is a lot of education that needs to be given to people. And so sometimes I do spend a little bit of time explaining things to people. And I think that's also part of the healing that we do as light workers. We're letting people know, hey, all of this information that I'm sharing with you, you innately have that within your own soul. And it's
Yes.
about just helping them remember who they are, having that soul remembrance. And there's so many people that are overwhelmed and burdened and full of anxiety and confused. And honestly, our physical world has created that reality for so many people. It is too fast paced. We have too much stimulation. People's nervous systems are so dysregulated. They're so disconnected from themselves. And this is where spirituality developing a connection with the world of spirit, helps you return back to your natural state of spirit. And I really think as mediums, I say developing mediums because I think we're always developing. I'm always developing. I'm always going to develop,
Forever.
right? That
Yes.
we really are trying to find this balance between recognizing we're spirit, but also honoring the fact that we're humans too. And
Mhm.
we're going to have these lived experiences. And if we can marry those two aspects of ourselves, it is going to help us live a more fruitful, abundant, expansive life here. And it gives us the opportunity, or gives our soul the opportunity, to really make the most out of every situation, every experience, every occurrence in our life.
That is so true. Here's one of the questions I get asked often, so I'm curious with your take on it. After somebody's loved one has passed away, because there is this myth out there that you have to wait a certain time or you're disturbing their soul, they're not at rest, they're not going to make it to heaven because you interrupted. So, how would you answer that for people that are coming to you for a reading and have that fear? How long do they need to
Yeah.
wait to get a reading after a loved
Okay.
one has passed?
Well, you don't have to wait any time. Okay.
I
So,
agree.
yeah, you don't have to wait any time. And let me tell you something. So, here's an example. So, I had a lady, I typically book like 2 to 3 months out for my private readings. I had a lady that booked a reading with me, and I didn't know her. I don't know any, I don't read for people I know. I want to know nothing, right?
I
So,
agree.
this lady comes to me for a private reading. We're doing a Zoom call. And she says, Courtney, I wasn't going to come today. She's like, I had something happen, but I had to. She booked like a couple months prior to the appointment, right? And
Mhm.
I said, okay, are you okay? She's like, yeah, I think I'm going to make it through. Anyways, I link with spirit. Her mom comes through. She's like, stop it. Close the front door. What? She's like, she just died 12 hours ago. That's why I was going to cancel my appointment.
Oh,
Her mom came through, no problem. Brought through incredible evidence, even specific details to what was actually transpiring and what led to her departure. Very sudden, very unexpected. And I always say I'm not a MD, I'm not a medical doctor, I'm a medium, right? So I only give you what they describe, but she actually gave some medical lingo that is out of my vocabulary. And she's like, yeah, that's exactly what happened. I said, okay, mom's here. Let's get on with the reading, right? And so that always shows the intelligence of the spirit.
yes.
And because I don't know why she booked the reading. I never asked people. It's none of my business. She's there. I'm going to serve. So that's an instance where you don't have to wait. Okay. I do recommend, though, that people wait about 4 months, not because your loved ones can't come through, not because you're disturbing the dead, not because they have to figure out how to connect through a medium. None of that. Because through my experience of grief, personally experiencing grief myself and going through therapy to cope with it, and also knowing how clients experience and receive information in a reading in those early stages. I recommend about 4 months because when you're going through the grief stage, you're in a state of shock. Your memory can be so affected where you have a lot of brain fog. You can't remember a lot of those finer details or little intricacies because your brain is trying to process what has taken place with the loss of your loved one. So when I'm working evidentially and I'm wanting to bring through information, or let me rephrase that, when spirit wants to bring through information, and this could be going back a month, a year, 10 years, 50 years, and you're not able to recall, it's hard for it to be evidential. And it doesn't mean it's not evidential, doesn't mean it's not accurate, but really it's only evidence if the recipient can remember it and can validate it. And
Yeah.
so also too, and I know there's an incredible medium, Lynn Prober, and she has said too, she recommends people wait a little bit of time too, because we want to have that comfort from our loved ones. However, sometimes if we haven't worked through some of those first stages of the grief in the early part of our journey, it can and I struggle with saying this, but I've experienced it so many times where the intent and the meaning and the impact that can be had by receiving that communication, sometimes it's overshadowed by the heaviness and the density and the depths of the grief. And
Yes.
so sometimes, I'm not going to say sometimes, more often than not, I've seen clients benefit by waiting a little bit of time, because even if we're expecting and know that our loved one is passing, we're still going to go through all of the stages of grief.
Yes.
And so how we work through that is really, really difficult. I know when my daughter passed to the spirit, I was in shock. I couldn't talk to nobody. I didn't know what was going on. I couldn't even, like, honestly, just getting dressed and getting on with my day, even remembering to eat was so, so difficult for me. I couldn't imagine if somebody were going to ask me information, I probably wouldn't even remember it.
Mm.
Not because I didn't want to, but because my brain, when we go through such a traumatic experience, especially if it's like someone super close to us, your brain kind of, it's almost like the brain and the memory kind of detach a little bit. I should say the mind, not the brain, because you're trying to reconcile what's happened and adjust to your new reality without them being physically there. Now, they're spiritually going to be there. Their soul essence
Yes.
is going to be there. That's not going to change. But you are going to miss that physical connection with them. And that's really hard to reconcile. And so there's some people, they're okay with it. They can cope very well with it. They can remember details, no problem. They can validate it. But I've just seen it countless times where some people go, I don't know. I can't remember. And it's not their fault. It's
Yeah.
not their fault. So it has nothing to do if spirit can come through. I really feel like it can be an incredible tool that can help support people in the grief process. Absolutely.
Yes. I remember, first of all, Lynn Provost. I
Robert,
love
yeah, she's
her.
incredible.
I met her at Arthur Findlay. What an amazing, amazing medium.
Yeah.
The grief, as we were talking about that, I forgot a few years back, my aunt had passed away, who was like a second mom to me. And 3 days later, I was sitting in a medium circle and she came through.
Wow.
Lots of incredible evidence. But I do remember, like, it felt great. It was like, oh my goodness, she came through. That's so cool. But I remember parts of the reading where the medium was talking, and it's kind of like, those cartoon Charlie Brown with the teacher going, walk, 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 like in the background.
Yeah.
I heard the medium, but then there was times I couldn't hear her voice anymore or anything because the grief would hit me in waves during the
Yeah.
reading.
Yeah.
And beautiful reading. I remember some of the evidence, other evidence. It's like my body disconnected and I didn't hear. I heard like sounds, but I didn't hear the words from the medium.
Yeah.
And then later on that evening, I just sat with that and I was like, oh, that was just me grieving. And kind of like where you say, like your mind's there, then it's not. And the
Yeah.
grieving process comes in waves where you think you're okay, then you're not okay. So I thank you for sharing that. That was beautiful. Is there anything else you wanted to say about demystifying mediumship? Because I know you had a lot.
I have a lot. I could
Yeah.
do hours of talking on it because there's so much nonsense out there. You can still be religious and have a faith of God, the God of your understanding, and still be a medium. You
I
really
like
can.
that. Yes.
Because some people think, well, I'm a Catholic or I'm a Christian or I'm Muslim or I'm Sikh. I can't connect to the other side because that's going to affect my faith. No, because here's why. Mediumship isn't like confined or restricted to a certain religion. Now, I am a spiritualist minister, I am a spiritualist, and part of the religion and the philosophy of spiritualism is mediumship. We always do a demonstration of mediumship in our services. And when we're doing an address, we allow our spirit guides to come close, blend with us, and give an inspired talk. So for my religion, yeah. But besides that, there's thousands of religions, right?
Yes.
It has nothing to do with your connection to your higher power, to your creator. If
Mm.
anything, I've seen it actually strengthen people's connection to their higher power, to that source, to their the God of their understanding. So in no way will it interfere. Now, I know for myself, I was raised in a Christian home, and there was a lot of scriptures and doctrine and dogma that says, no, 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 no. I'm actually going to do a whole podcast episode on it very soon, because I've had so many people, countless, on all my social medias and even in my email, go, Courtney, what about this? I know I'm meant to do this, but my faith, your faith
Mm.
has nothing to do with it. Nothing. It is a part of who you are. And if your faith is all love, all encompassing, and accepts you as you are, then it's reasons to make sense to me that you should be able to accept who you are, that these abilities are not separate from you, they're a part of you. So, I mean, that's a whole other topic, but mediumship is not exclusive, it's very much inclusive to your faith and enriches it a lot. I see it tons.
Oh, that is beautiful. So, as we come to our close of our interview, and I have so enjoyed learning so much about you and how deep you go into the topic. So, I'm so grateful for that. And I hope that really helps those that are listening to us today and listening to you. And for those that want to explore mediumship, I hope this brings peace to their heart and gives them the courage to do that first step, reach out to a medium in a spiritual church. Or actually, what would you recommend for people that are like, okay, I think I can do this. I'm scared, but so what is the first step you would recommend for people that are out there and want to develop their mediumship?
So the first thing is look for a mentor. There's several places that you can go. I have an online school, the Connected Spirit School, and I run courses regularly. I have an Ethical Mediumship Foundations course. So that's a course where I teach people all backgrounds, levels of experience, how to develop a really strong foundation in their ethical mediumship. And it's evidential mediumship, by the way. Just have to shorten it. But you can also go to a local spiritualist church and see if they have any development circles. Development circles are a place where you can go to learn how to develop your mediumship. They'll often have a guided meditation or sitting in the power practice, followed by different exercises that are going to allow you to tune into your abilities, understand them, and also a really great place for you to connect with like-minded people. Also, definitely the spiritualist churches, just because I really really love the philosophy and the foundation. In spiritualism, we keep it like really grounded and natural. It's not woo-woo,
Yeah.
I'll put it that way. Another place you could go is you could look at the SNU, the Spiritualist National Union, and that's the governing body in the UK for mediums. And they actually have a list of accredited churches and accredited mediums as well. And you could also, I always say, be kind of leery about some of the not leery, but use your discernment when you
Mm.
are looking, I'll say online for some stuff, because if you are looking online, that's okay, but make sure that you have somebody who's trained. What does that mean? If they say they're just a natural medium and they've had no sort of understanding, no training, no background, look for somebody who does have some sort of formal training. Have they gone to the Arthur Findlay College? Have they had a mentor? Who's their mentor? How long have they been doing this for? What is their philosophy? Do they have reviews? What type of mediumship do they teach? Because there's all different types of mediumship, you know, and see where your why you want to do this, if it resonates and if it's in sync with their philosophy. Because there's a lot of people that are out there teaching, and sadly, a lot of it's the blind leading the blindfolded. And I have countless students that come to me and have had really awful experiences with people that have been misleading and have had them open up their abilities in a way that wasn't gentle and natural and just really left people feeling quite uncomfortable. So do some research, do some research. And those are some tips to help get started.
I love that because I know in the beginning of my mediumship, I I didn't really know anything, right? So then you
Yeah.
just find other mediums, you don't know if they're trained, not trained. Then it's just there was a lot of fear-based stuff.
Yeah.
And I believed them because I didn't have a comparison. And then when COVID happened a few years ago and everything went online, then I discovered Arthur Findlay College online and then started following different mentors. And I know for me, I trained with Paul Jacobs, and I've
Yep,
noticed the mentors that I'm drawn to all have his lineage. At one point or another, they studied under him, but I
yep,
just like that style of teaching that works for me.
yep.
I, um, and you kind of got to pick the mentor, the teacher that works for you, right? Because I think that's super important. Do your research, get a reading.
Totally.
Because I used to get readings, be like, okay, I'm going to get a reading and see how I feel about this before I study with them,
Yeah,
or watch them do a mediumship demonstration.
totally. Yes. Yeah.
Go on their social media and check them out. Is it your vibe? Is what they're saying? Does it match your belief system, or does it scare you, or does it make you feel safe? Because that's super important. I know you've
Yeah.
mentioned you have a spirit school. I love that. So it's called the Connected Spirit School. So how do people um to connect with you for that? They just go directly to your website?
Yeah, on the website,
Okay.
there's a page for the school, and I offer two different courses. So the Ethical Mediumship Foundations is a 12-week course, and this is where we are going to learn everything about connecting to your own spirit so you can connect with spirit. And then everything in between on how to give an evidential message, how to link with spirit, how to sit in the power, everything that you need to know you learn in that course. And I have people that have been working mediumistically, but they're like, there's some holes in my mediumship development. And they'll come in and it's a really good refresher for them and giving them some new information. They go, oh, I didn't think about it this way. Then I have a certification course. So for people that are wanting to take their mediumship to the next level, that's the professional mediumship course. That's a certification course through the school. And we help prepare you to begin working with the public, how to set up your business, a spiritual based business, build your online, offline business, how to network, how to market yourself so you can make 5, 10K a month and you can do it. And it's not just about the money, but people go, wow, that's a lot of work. Yes, but I show you how you can be of service while being abundantly paid for your gifts. And it is incredible. So those are the two courses that I offer frequently through the school. And then I always do different demonstrations of mediumship in person, online, local spiritualist churches here I serve. So all my information is on the website at mediumcourtneydawson.com.
Oh, I love that. And then you also have a podcast called the Connected Spirit Podcast.
Yes. I
Yes.
love the show. I love the show so much. So I never knew anything about podcasts, to be honest. I knew about them, but I didn't know much about them. I knew nothing about how to make one. My cousin had mentioned it to me, and I said, no, like I'm too busy doing other stuff. And then the spirit world came to me about a year and a half later. They're like, Courtney, you need to do this. So I took a course. And the show is all about sharing information about modern mediumship because mediumship changes all the time as
Yeah.
society changes. Spirit changes how they work with us to adapt to the current times. I mean, again, they're intelligent, right? So I really share about not only my mediumship journey, but have other mediums on there that are sharing their journey of mediumship and also all different aspects of spirituality and helping people feel really seen and validated in their experiences, sharing information that I wish I knew in the beginning that would have helped calm my fears and helped me feel like, okay, I can open to spirit. It is possible. And I can do this. This is part of me. And building a community, because I know when we do this, it can feel really lonely at times. And
Mhm.
having someone there to just validate, to help people go, okay, I'm not alone. All right, perfect. Okay. And it helps comfort people. And so, yeah, that's available on all streaming platforms.
Oh, I love that. So thank you so much for spending the hour with us. I will have all of her links and details within the show notes so you are able to connect with her. I highly encourage you guys go find her on social media, and all the links will be there. And thank you so much for spending this hour with us, Courtney.
Oh,
Thank
it's
you.
been amazing. Thank you.